what we've done is that Lowry's always talked about management objectives for years, and I've listened to how he used it. And some of the big things he would say is that when an employee goes in for a review, they really should know what their result is going to be before they walk in the room. You know, if
Hmm.
they've achieved all of their goals, if they've met all of their objectives, it's going to be a great meeting, and they're going to talk about future stuff. And if they haven't, and if they've missed some of those things and they're constantly missing the goals, then it's going to be a discussion about what's going on and why isn't this working out the way we had hoped.
Hmm.
When he described that about how an employee review could be a very rewarding experience or a correcting experience, I was saying, well, yeah, but how do you know throughout the quarter or throughout the year how it's going? He said, well, I ask them questions. We have, monthly meetings. We talk about things, and it becomes kind of management by walking around. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great system to use. But sometimes when it comes down to taking a triage of who should you be walking around to, or where should you be putting your time, there really was no system with management by objectives to understand this month or this week who could best use my help, or what could I do to keep things going within the company. So really, that's the big change that's coming in with the software is that the idea of setting goals and accountability is nothing new, but having some software that all the time keeps track for you the current status so that as a manager, at a glance, you could see of all your teams or of all your employees, who's doing well, who's not, and if they're not doing well, what could you do at this moment to help them?
Hmm.
Does that kind of ring true with some of the issues you've seen over the years with objectives and goals and stuff?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Hmm.
So what I've got here is I've got two windows up on the screen. One window is what is it like to be an employee who has a set of objectives. We're going to talk about strategies and milestones. So here's Dale Porter, and he's part of a company called Fluid Power. And Dale has a set of objectives that he needs to achieve for the year. And we're going to talk
He's
more
he's
about.
a salesman.
He's a salesman. Yep.
Okay.
Salesman in the organization. So this is how Dale can focus on his objectives. But I also want to show you what it's like to be the manager. And here's Robert Smith. He runs the company. He's the CEO. And he has a set of teams. And each team, the sales team, the marketing team, of course, your teams might have different names completely. But each team is represented by a person and a status. So, kind of a top-down view as a manager, you can say, Anderson's doing well, Evers is doing well. Porter, something's happening with Porter right now, and it allows you to focus on him. But within Dale, his account, he looks at his own objectives and he can see, okay, yep, I'm falling behind on this redeeming $8 million. So I just kind of want to take a break there and just kind of discuss into two different views, the employee view versus the manager view, and see if that makes sense.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay. So what I'll do is take you through what it's like to be an employee, and then we'll step back and see how a manager sees all of that and more. Um, so an employee has the set of objectives, and the key really to this is that any given objective, like complete annual performance review or redeem product sales, is going to be backed up. And when I click through on this, you'll see what I mean by backed up. Here is an objective that has strategies. So it's one thing to say to your employee, okay, you need to redeem $8 million in product sales, but it's nice for the employee to come back and say to you, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to concentrate on this industry. I'm going to review operations. Essentially, this can be a sentence long, a paragraph long, even a page long, where you've set the goal to redeem something and they've set the strategies explaining how they're going to do it. And it gives you kind of buy in. And I kind of asked, do you use a process like that? So when you say, here are my goals, you might do it in a meeting. How do your employees come back to you and say they understand them or how they're going to achieve them?
Well, a lot of times that might be more in a one-on-one meeting with their respective manager,
Okay.
and where the goals would be set, and hopefully understood at that time. But is it always clear? I don't know. But I mean, it's typically in a one-on-one meeting, not at a group meeting.
Okay. And I agree. In this case, it would be a one-on-one meeting. But what the process we'd recommend is that the manager would say, here are the goals that I want, like redeem 8 million. You sit down for an hour, employee, and or Jim in this case, or Paul, the name of the employee, and write down the 3 or 4 or 5 strategies that you feel will achieve that. And what's nice about it is that when you do sit down with that one-on-one meeting, now you have something concrete, and together as a manager and employee, you can say, yes, I think these strategies are going to get you towards your goal, your objective. I think if you execute this strategy, you're going to succeed. Or if you don't think that strategy is going to work, then you might say, well, let's add a couple of strategies, or let's change some of the wordings here. Let's not focus on this, but focus on something else. And it becomes a written record then of an agreement as to how you're going to, in the military terms, how you're going to take that hill. What's your strategy for taking that hill, as opposed to the goal of taking the hill?
Mm-hmm. Question, if I may, can the sales rep, let's say, for sake of argument, his target is 12 million. Is that automatically broken down to $1 million a month, or can you break it down to weekly, so that sales rep knows what their bookings should be every week or every month, every quarter, and I mean, how far down can this strategy drill?
Right. And that's a good point. And it takes us to our next level. So you might have 2 strategies that are 2 different ways to redeem 8 million. Or you might have 4 strategies, which are each quarter. How are you going to do that? The first quarter, which is notoriously slow, let's say, the strategy might be lots of phone calls, lots of proactive calls. The fourth quarter, which is aggressive, might be all about closing. So you might have different strategies to do that. And the software supports that breakdown of 2 strategies versus 4 strategies. But the key point is that when you have a strategy, let's drill down one step deeper to look for this strategy. So I'm going to go target 12 new accounts as a salesperson. And when I drill down inside of that, what we're going to see are milestones. And Jim, to your point, those milestones could be: did I get my first customer? Did I get my first 2 million? Did I get my second 2 million? My third 2 million? And as the salesperson achieves these milestones, they're being calculated or associated with the strategy and associated with the objective. And this is really, I think, one of the keys, is that now we can see that the salesperson is making progress against their strategy. Literally, they booked $2 million or $4 million worth of sales.
Okay. Yeah, like that. Makes sense.
And where that really helps, if we go back to the dashboard here, is that you can take a look at this and say, well, how much progress has this person made so far this year? That 20%, which is a little bit behind given that we're already 3 months into the year, And there's even a yellow marker here saying, well, not only are they a little bit behind, but we know specifically why they're behind. So what I've got here is this idea that I've got objectives, strategies, and milestones, and they all calculate up to say, am I on target? Am I achieving what's being requested?
Right, so the hierarchy is, first of all, the objective, then the strategy to meet that objective, and then the milestones within that strategy. Did I understand that correctly?
Exactly. And the key, I brought up a strategy page, is if the objective is redeem $7 million in new service, that's a pretty clear objective. Well, the question is, what is your strategy for doing that, or what are your strategies? So one here is based on existing service agreements. One is about new service agreements. And so you're saying, this is how over the next year I'm going to redeem $7 million.
Okay.
And then that layer deeper is, well, for a given strategy, like if you're going to sell $4 million in new accounts, what are you going to do? So I'm going to quarter by quarter show you the money coming in. And you can get more detailed if you want. You could say, well, I'm going to meet with 7 new customers. You might have 7 milestones here, or I'm going to open a new territory. The software is just happy that you as an employee have created milestones, and then the software can essentially monitor your progress as you check them off.
I like that. I like that. And what I like most about it, I'm thinking out loud here, but if so, I'm the manager. I get them that we're going to buy in that this department, this team, this location, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These are our objectives: X number of dollars of revenue, X number of dollars of profit or EBITDA or what, however you want to set those objectives. Then the next step is to say, okay, let's put together the strategy of how we're going to do it, a written strategy.
Yep.
And then each person, department, etc., can literally determine all their milestones that need to be tracked in order to redeem that strategy, which will get us to the objectives. So I don't have to sit down as a manager, I guess what I'm saying, and write all those stupid milestones. I just need to get them to buy in to the objective. I need to review their strategy. We agree upon it, but the reality is the milestones, they can come up with whatever milestones they want as long as they have once a month or something like that, some milestone that's easy for the manager to track. I'm more thinking out loud than anything, Dan. Sorry, I'm boring the crap out of you.
No, it's really, that's the key point, which is it's one thing to come to a meeting at the end of the year and say, you know what, I only sold 3 million. And the manager's going, what do you mean you only sold, where did it go wrong? And I said, well, back in June, I wasn't getting any support from marketing, nothing, right? I wasn't able to convert anything in the second quarter. And of course, a lot of people think they're going to recover, right? By putting milestones in there, what happens at a manager level, and I'm going to switch screens from my employee to my manager here. What the manager is seeing is, here are all my teams. These could be different franchise locations rather than people. They could be franchise locations. They could be divisions within a company. But here I'm looking at the sales team, and I'm already seeing here in April that Dale is falling behind. He went yellow. And I can already go over here and see, he's making progress. It's not like he's not doing anything, but he's falling behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill in here into the sales team as the manager. I'm drilling down saying, well, what were the objectives I set for the sales team? It's performance reviews, which is some HR stuff, new sales, existing sales, but it seems like there's a problem here in new accounts because it's gone yellow. So I'm going to drill down a little bit and see what his strategies are. And he's just not meeting with the accounts. So I'll drill down a little bit more and see what the problem is. And what this does is it allows me to have objectives and strategies and milestones for my employees, but also see in my dashboard which ones are going well, which ones are going poorly, and I can see that he didn't report his sales. I can even go over and take a look at the comments, because you can have a little dialogue about a given milestone or a given strategy between managers and other employees. So here's Dale saying, hey, finance isn't helping me out. I'm stuck. Now, of course, Dale could be coming to the manager saying, hey, I'm stuck, right? That's one of those walking around. You might have asked him what's going on. He says, finance isn't helping me. But by having this dashboard, even though Dale is trying to solve the problem on his own right now, at least you're aware of what's going well, what's not going well, and maybe you could wander in and help out in this situation.
Is there any more detail for what, I mean, when he hasn't made his objective, are there details as to he completed, he had 1 million instead of 2 million, or is there anywhere else? I mean, we know he didn't make that, we know he didn't make his goal there.
Right.
Okay, now we're going back, okay.
I'm going to go back and take a look at that. So we don't really keep track of, we're not an accounting software or a project management, but let me drill down here. So here's his objective. And there's his strategy about new accounts. And here's the milestone that he's missing, right? And he might add a comment, which is, I pulled in 1.25 million, right? So he's falling behind, and although we're not an accounting software, when I go up as a manager, here's my management view. Let me just refresh the screen here. And what I'll see is that there's 2 comments. And he said, you know, I need finance to give me the numbers, but I pulled in 1.25 million. But this gives you a place to have that discussion because Dale is aware that essentially he's gone yellow or maybe even going red here in a couple of days. He falls even further behind. And it allows him to communicate, you know, kind of throughout the organization. I know I'm kind of falling behind here. Here's why, and here's what I'm doing.
Right.
So, help me here, Dan. I want to drill down to something really, really basic.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm managing a team of salespeople.
Yeah.
And I know that there are certain levels of activity that salesperson has to do every week.
Mm-hmm.
Got to meet 6 new customers.
Right.
Qualifier. I got to make six qualifier calls. I got to make 3 proposals, and I got to bring in 1 deal every week. I'm just throwing that out. So ahead of my PAR meeting, my plan and review meeting with that sales rep, if you're doing 1, it's easy, but if you're doing multiple sales reps, it starts getting tricky. So the sales rep, him or herself, would go in and enter in their results for the previous week.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah. So let's just create a milestone here. And let's say that it's due at the end of the week, you know, and the milestone is, 6 e-calls, 2 meets, 1 sale. 1 sale. So we're going to put that milestone in.
Why don't you make it 2 proposals? Oh, too late. Never mind.
That's okay. And it's easy to edit. So we go over here and we'll just edit this. Right.
Okay, so now I got it in there. All right.
Yeah. So that essentially you're going to have one of those each week. You know.
Right.
In fact, I did it as the manager, and that's the nice thing is that you can do this as the manager. Right now, I'm showing you the manager view, or you can do it as the employee. Let me refresh the screen, and we'll see now the employee has a new milestone: 6 e-calls, 2 proposals, and 1 sale.
So is that something that the sales rep would have to enter in every week, or can he set it up as a weekly milestone?
Yeah, you can set it up. Well, I'll show you something even better, which is, let me go back here to my manager, and I'll go to my dashboard here. So let's say that you have 4 sales teams that you manage.
Right.
Right. And I'll go into one of the sales teams, and I'll take a look at one of the objective, which is 10 million in sales. That objective might have strategies about e-calls and all kinds of things. And let's say you've worked this out, because you have one per week. You set it out so you like the system. What you can do is you can what's called make it a template account, and I'll make it a template. Now, when I go to my templates, you have this template, which is an objective, a set of strategies, and a set of milestones, which may be yearly or quarterly. And you can then assign that to as many employees as you want. You might assign it to every employee, every sales team. So the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is that you've got some initial setup, whether it be a secretary doing this or the salesperson himself needs to kind of set up what are the strategies and what are the milestones. But then once you do that, you can take this and assign it to anyone you want.
Got it.
And then the key is that that salesperson turns around and weekly says, I did it, or can make a comment like, silly as this is, I was sick.
Are you, what view are you in right now? Are you in the manager's view or the employee view?
This is the employee view.
Okay, good.
Says I was out sick. What I'll do is I'm going to move this date back a week just to show you what it looks like if it goes red. So essentially, this was due on April 3rd, 6 e-calls, 2 proposals, 1 sale, and the employee didn't do it, and he left a comment saying, I was out a week. Now, let me show you what it looks like from the manager's perspective here. Let me go back to my dashboard. And immediately what I see is that my salesperson has gone red. Something's wrong. And so when I drill down on that, and I say, well, where did he go red? Well, he went red in new product sales. Okay. What happened? He had problems with his new accounts. Okay. What was it? Well, he was sick. Now, the key of this is that if you've got 5 salespeople working for you and all of them are doing great, except 1 or 2, when you go back to your dashboard as a manager and you're saying, who do I need to talk to today? Well, you need to talk to Dale, not Janet or Miss Anderson. They're doing fine. I need to talk to Dale. Or if you have weekly meetings, when Janet Evers calls in about her weekly meeting, everything's fine, right? It's going to be a good, positive meeting about new accounts. But when Dale calls in about his meeting, it's going to be about why are you red and what are we going to do about
it? Can you go back to the detail on Dale's, right? I mean, he's red.
Yeah.
And is he red because of just that one? What else is red on his list of objectives?
Yeah, what it is that if anything turns red, if he misses one milestone or one strategy, it bubbles up.
He'll be red. He'll be red on the master screen.
Right. It's even red on his screen. So if we take a look, I'm looking at Dale's screen right now. It says, hi, I'm Dale Porter, and I've missed a deadline. And if he goes and looks at those milestones in a list, what he's going to see is he's achieved a lot, but he's missed one.
Mm-hmm.
And as an employee, what that's saying to him is that right now, my manager, who might look at this dashboard every couple of days, he's going to see that I've got an issue. And I need to do whatever it takes to check that off. Now, the moment I check it off, it's going to go to green. In other words, we're not trying to penalize people for past performance. We're not trying to say, oh, he's red forever. It went to green. And if I go to my manager screen here, what I'm going to see is that Dale has gone from red to yellow.
And he's yellow because there's still one yellow in his objective list?
That's right. It's right here. He hasn't actually hit the 1.25 million, so he's going to add a comment and say, got the final deal. Oops. Just came in, right? Just came in. So he got his final deal, And he's going to check this off now. He hit his $2 million. He checks it off. He goes from yellow to green, which is good. And then as a manager, the next time I log in as a manager, what I see is that Dale is now green.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about all the employees' objectives, the strategies, and their milestones, they're constantly, falling a little bit behind, achieving things. And that's why we have this yellow category. Yellow category means they're only late within 1 week. It's only 1 week late. There's still a chance to recover. If it's later than a week, it goes red.
Oh, that's when it's red. Okay.
Yeah, and it gives you the discussion. If you're sitting there and you meet someone in the hall and say, Dale, I saw you went yellow. Do you think you're gonna be able to finish that up by the end of the week? He's going, oh yeah, that accounting department's always slow. Those POs always come in slow. It's like, great. And if it's red, you go, hey Dale, this is dragged on a long time. How can I help you with it? You might say, I really need you to give a call to their president because I think you could help me close this. I just need some help.
So if I understood what you just said, Dan, an employee who misses a deadline, and he's a week off, it goes yellow.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more than a week off, it goes red.
Yep.
And then the employee can change it back from red to green.
Mm-hmm. Just by checking it off, by doing the work or by achieving the milestone.
Does the manager have to agree to that being moved back to green before it moves to green?
No, and this is the reason why we did that. Let me go ahead and check this, move it to green, is because we really want people to achieve their objectives. That's what we really want, is we want results. We want it to be green. But we do know that as a manager, you need to keep track of all that. So let's take a look at Dale himself. I'm going to click on Dale and go to his page as the manager. And what I see is that Dale's done a lot of work. And I'm going to print the report for Dale. So now this is an HR-like function. And I'm going to bring this report up. And what it shows is that he's been meeting his milestones, but 13 of them were after deadline. The guy never finishes anything on time. So we do this report because you can sit there and say to Dale, all right, look, you're late by a week on nearly everything you do. It's checked off. That's true. You got to complete it, but you're late. And you can scroll down here and say, and on these new accounts, these accounts, you're late, you're late, you're late, you're late on every one of them. But he is getting them done. So we're trying to show the difference between, are you achieving results, which is the current status, is everything green, versus the employee report, which you might take to HR and say, yeah, the guy's good, but I have a documented record that he's having issues.
He's self-reporting.
Yeah, right. I kind of like that report. I didn't know that report existed, Dan. Could you scroll down that report again from top to bottom?
Yep. So it gives you an overview of essentially a percentage. Yes, you're completing your strategies, you're completing your milestones, but not very many are on time.
That, could you scroll down?
Certainly. And then within a given objective or strategy, they're all laid out. What were your objectives? What were your strategies? Are you completing them? And if you're completing them, are they late or are they on time?
Well, in essence, that's my performance review form.
Exactly. And it's always available to you and the employee.
I'm sorry, repeat what you just said, Dan?
Yeah, and it's always available to you and the employee. So again, that idea that as an employee you should never wonder what your review is going to be like. As an employee, if you print this out and you see they're all late, when you walk into that review meeting, you should have a good idea. You're going to be talking about that.
That's, the whole thing just clicked. Very, very nice, Dan.
Oh, thank you.
That's very nice.
Well, in the software world, we call this the dismount from gymnastics. You see those gymnasts, they go and they go to the pommel horse or they're on the uneven bars and they spin and spin and spin and finally they land in a dismount.
Right.
For us, this report is the dismount. This is when you stand and you stick your arms in the air because all that tracking really isn't worth anything if at the end of the year you don't have any report that shows whether the employee was doing great work or doing poor work.
Right. Well, and depending on how often you do performance reviews, certainly no less than once a year, but possibly twice a year,
Mhm.
this is what you would need to have a good performance review meeting. So.
Yeah. And the goal of this, when it says download as PDF, really it's so you can print it out.
Right.
Because anytime you generate this report, let's say you do it once a quarter, so you print that out and you stick it in the employees folder. In the next quarter, you print it out, you stick it in the employees folder. Later, then, when you go to human resources and you say this employee deserves a raise, well, I mean, look at these reports; they're stellar. Or this employee, we need to put on some kind of performance plan. Look at this report; it's documented. This is your hard evidence that HR will love you for.